We've got a very interesting panel here, and I think the best way to start is everybody just do a quick introduction, if it's all right, gentlemen, from that end over. Just a quick introduction as to who you are, and then I think we'll just open it up. If somebody wants to say something when we go back through, maybe John, who's never probably had an argument in his life, he might be able to start it here, and we'll move back. So start at that end, please.
I'm Kirk Tousaw. I'm a lawyer and work in medical cannabis compliance and strategic litigation.
I'm Parry. I write for Stockhouse.com, and I've been covering medical marijuana stocks for the last few months now. Forever.
I'm a little longer than that. I'm Brocstein, founder of 420 Investor, a website for investors interested in investing in cannabis.
I'm Frank Lane, president of Cannabis FN. We are a dedicated financial network to the industry, and we serve as a corporate communication platform for the public companies in the space.
My name is John Berfelo, and I'm NextGen's medical advisor. I'm also a legal cannabis educator/advocate. My backfield program with Brocstein, BC.
John Conroy, lawyer. Actually, president of Normal Canada, still, by default.
Anybody hear that?
No.
There you go. I'm president of NextGen and Green Rush Financial Conferences. I guess I'm also president of a company called Green Rush Analytical Laboratories, but I'm going to find a president there pretty quick for that one. Thank you. All right. Yeah, start it off.
And it's, who's taking the prohibition side?
Is there anybody in the audience?
So, in the Dayton City paper a month or not even a month ago, they said that they wanted the staff to write about one side of the page was going to be about legalization, and somebody else to write about prohibition or opposing legalization. And they couldn't find a staff member to write about opposing legalization or supporting prohibition. So they published the newspaper with one side having the pro-legalization and the other side was blank. So
Yeah.
it really progressed a long way when somebody in a major U.S. newspaper can't find a reporter that's prepared to take the other side. And I guess we're in a similar situation here. Nobody's prepared to take the other side.
I represent the black market.
Actually, he represents the black market.
Oh, okay.
Well, I used to.
As a reporter, I don't find it too strange that every single reporter in a newsroom would be on weed.
So, I mean, the obvious thing is regulation. People talk about legalization, and everybody thinks it means it's going to be available as a candy in the store, instead of realizing that all that really means is not decriminalization, not traffic ticket systems that the police and the conservative government support, which will intrude in your civil liberties even more than using the criminal law. We're talking about making it legal, which means regulating it. Your kids now know to go to the nearest park or train station. It's easy to get any drug they want because it's in a black market. In a regulated market, you at least have to corrupt an adult to get into the liquor store, or a doctor in order to get oxys or whatever it is that you're trying to get. So there's at least some effort to try and regulate and control as opposed to leaving it out of control, which is what prohibition is, totally out of control. So, regulation and taxation is what is meant by legalization. And we have Mr. Trudeau, whose father and Mr. Chrétien, his then Justice Minister, brought us the Charter, and he's now prepared to legalize, and he's prepared to use that word and not waffle with the decriminalization stuff. So, as I said before, prohibition is great for gangsters, it's great for people to make profits, but beware, don't overtax it when we legalize it. Because if you overtax it, you're going to resurrect the black market. In Colorado, there are people on the street corners saying, hey, I can sell it to you without the tax, because the tax is so high. So remember, people are always going to be there to try and undercut your market one way or another. And you have to design a system which hopefully minimizes that and minimizes the extent of any crime or abuse that occurs within the system. Thank you.
Excellent, John. Thanks. So just hearing a few things here, and I was just wondering, is there anybody in the audience that's against someone like myself growing their own medical marijuana at home? So there's absolutely nobody here against someone like myself growing my own cannabis at home. Wow, that's awesome. That's great. So how many of you, you did, please. Come on up. Oh, there's a microphone in there.
I have no qualms about legalization of medical marijuana, and I think to some extent adults for their own pleasure. I see it like alcohol and I think you said Valium. My concern is to keep it out of the hands of children. So to that extent, I think we need the regulation. I guess comparable to alcohol. Kids can't go into a liquor store and buy cannabis. I understand there's some medical concerns about it for young children, so I think that's where I would draw the line in the sand. I wonder if any of you want to comment on that.
It's kind of funny that in respect of news over the last few months in the US that medical marijuana use in children has actually been the thing that's opened the door for a lot of states to actually start looking at it as a health product. I don't think that any of us are too concerned that our kids are going to jump in the car and drive off with it. You know, we deal with things that are potentially dangerous every day that are either at one point illegal or otherwise. So obviously there'll be regulation, and I don't think it'll be sold next to the power bars at 7-Eleven anytime soon. But we probably need to factor in that if you regulate it too heavily, then your kids are going to get it through other means.
And it may not be good quality. It could hurt them.
Quality be terrible, so at least let them have good quality.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to sell something to the public that's not prohibited, that's not been driven underground, and may have all kinds of contaminants and so on, that your kids will try and access unless you supervise them in some way, you need a regulated market. You need a market where there are rules and regulations. If you're growing it for yourself, that's one thing.
Yeah.
People aren't usually going to try and grow something that's going to harm them. But it's when you call it medicine and you're going to sell it to the public, or call it, a recreational drug and you're going to sell it to the public, there's going to be rules and regulations. The Food and Drug Act, covers natural health care products. You can grow as many natural health care products that you want, and you can kill yourself on some of them, but you can't sell them to the public. So it's a distinction that you have to make, and nobody's interested in seeing anybody suffer harms from the use of cannabis. But don't get frightened by all the stories you read in the media. You need to do a little research and check them out. Sending kids off to war is more damaging to their brains, and they do that before they turn 20.
I'd just like to say, my wife Tanya and I, between us, we have 4 kids. The oldest is 23. He's actually somewhere in the background. I'm very proud of my son, Taylor, because he was a big part of putting this convention together. The next fellow is a bit of a wild man. His name is Connor. I call him the Good Man sometimes. And we had to send him away. We sent him to Switzerland to a school, and now he's in one of the best hotel management schools. And when he got there, he said, "Dad, you didn't tell me." I said, "Tell you what?" He said, "You didn't tell me they do drug testing here." I said, "Quite frankly, I knew it was in Switzerland it'd be tough, but I didn't even know that myself." Step back a couple of years, and my boy Connor was trying a lot of different types of drugs, not crazy drugs, mostly marijuana, I think. And it slowed him down, and he went from an 80 or 90%er down to probably about a 60%er. I guess the moral of the story is the other kids were pretty damn good. Always gonna have a wild man with a name like Connor, why wouldn't he go out? Now he's doing very well. But we had to, I think the other way is you've got to love those kids, and you've got to tell them over and over again that whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever, that's not good for them. And I think he gets it now. He worked 6 months last year in one of the best hotels in the world. And in June, he goes to a place called the Aberdeen Yacht Club in Hong Kong. He's only 20 years old. So he got away from drugs or in school, and he got in with a better crowd. I'd like to think it was because we gave him a lot of time, as much time as we could. I even took him down to what I call the bad end of town one time. And I was actually so afraid, I drove out faster than he did. But it's about loving your kids. It's telling them, that you can't do that kind of stuff. You can't do a lot of it. You can't run your life. You can do it on alcohol. Somebody said to me the other day, how many people in this city, in the hospital beds in Vancouver, are in because of alcohol? What's the percentage? This guy is a top psychologist. He should be right. He said about 40%. And then I said, wow. And then he said, how many people are in because of marijuana? I said, I don't know. He said, none. So it's about loving your kids. It's about moderation in whatever you do.
In contrast to Harry's experience, I never smoked as a kid, and I became a journalist, so you can never really tell which kid's going to screw up their life.
Definitely second call.
Does anybody have any questions for anybody up here? We got some microphones up there. Here we go, stand up. Oh, we got one on each side. So we're going to go with the gentleman on the right, who was first, and the gentleman on the second.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, first and foremost, thank you very much for having this conference. I've done a lot of work both here and down south in security with some very high-flying legal people and also law enforcement. And one of the things I've continually stressed over the last 10 years, 15 years with law enforcement, which they don't like me to say, is I am sick and tired of you going out to communities and telling our parents marijuana is a gateway drug. Cigarettes and smoking and booze are the gateway drugs. Those are legal. I do not know anyone who's ever smoked a joint or taken marijuana in pipes or vaporizers that did not try a cigarette first or was drinking, especially when you're younger. And I can tell you as a third-generation Vancouverite, at the age of 16, when you had to be 21, across the street there used to be an Invermain hotel, and I started drinking at 16, not 21. So I congratulate this whole panel here, and I congratulate all you people in this audience for standing up for this issue. Thank you.
That's a great observation, and it really bothers me as well that people call marijuana a gateway drug. The reality is, in a prohibition state, young people see it that way, and they're introduced to the wrong people. You don't go, well, first of all, even in a regulated world, they won't just walk into the store. But as a 21-year-old, let's talk about that, as an adult. If you're buying it in the back alley from a dealer, that dealer owns you. They don't have to provide you with quality. They can lace it with things, and they can introduce you to other types of substances that will make more profit for them. So I really appreciate your comment there.
You got to remember too that gates open and close, and so it's well known in the community that I've been dealing with, where people have got off heroin and all sorts of other what you call hard drugs by going to cannabis. And so they've managed to control their addiction, which is a serious health problem, by going to something that sure they may become dependent on, but it doesn't have anywhere near the consequences of addiction. So the gate, the door they've gone through is in the best direction, not in the other direction. I last night received the 2014 edition of The Facts About Cannabis that NORML puts out in the U.S., And there's a nice little part that deals with this issue. It says, but if we legalize marijuana and use increases, what will happen to our country? We already know in the 8-year period between 1969 and 1977, marijuana use by those under the age of 30 did not double or triple or quadruple. It soared 7-fold, from 8% to 56%. This is far more than any conceivable increase in marijuana use that might result from legalization. And what was the result? Did doctors report an increase in birth defects? No. Brain damage? No. Heart attacks? No. Traffic fatalities? No. Violent crime, spousal abuse, sexual assault? Of course not. This is also the case in states where medical marijuana is legal, and we now have reliable statistics. The data demonstrate either no adverse impact or actual positive impacts, including a decline in traffic fatalities and in suicide rates among males under 30. Contrary to the fears of prohibitionists, there is no increase in marijuana use by teens. That's the latest information.
I don't know about you guys, but just as a case study within my own growing up, I was involved in lots of fights outside bars, but I don't think any of the guys who wanted to front were ever stoners. They were alcoholics perhaps, maybe they were on ecstasy or speed, but all the stoners I knew had trouble getting out to the Roxy, let alone coming out drunk.